This guy actually demanded the driver sign his receipt as Santa. Then someone else went even further and called 911 because her package showed up on a Tuesday, and she insisted Santa does not work weekdays. And my favorite, someone gave a 1-star review because their box had tape on it, and apparently that is not how Christmas magic is supposed to work. These meltdowns are real, and they are happening right now, and some drivers are genuinely quitting over them. Stick around because number 37 brings a drone, a dog, and a complaint that feels like a holiday fever dream. If you didn't get mad at a delivery driver this December, are you even American? Hit like if you've ever yelled at a tracking map. And hit subscribe, so YouTube doesn't deliver your notifications to the wrong timeline. Comment your dumbest delivery complaint below. Best one gets featured and gently reported to Santa's HR department. 1. A man in Ohio panicked when his Christmas package was left on the porch in what he called full view of joy. He claimed people walking by could technically absorb the holiday spirit of his order by simply looking at the box. The delivery driver tried explaining that the porch was the correct location listed, but the man demanded it be placed inside his closet because that was his designated safe zone. Neighbors watched the argument unfold like a live Christmas special. One lady even offered him a curtain for the porch, but he refused because curtains still leaked joy. The driver eventually apologized just to escape, while the man filed a formal complaint describing emotional exposure. 2. A woman in Texas lost her mind when her Christmas delivery arrived sealed with regular tape. She marched outside waving the box like it was contaminated evidence. She told the confused driver that Santa would never use boring tape because Santa wraps with magic and sparkles. The driver tried explaining it was a standard shipping box, not an elf-crafted present, but she cut him off and said authenticity matters. Her husband stood behind her, quietly mouthing sorry to the driver. Even a passing jogger laughed when she demanded a replacement box wrapped the way Santa would approve. She later called customer service and insisted the driver undergo festive retraining so he could learn proper holiday wrapping expectations. 3. A teen in Michigan opened her door expecting a normal delivery, but instead, she complained that the driver didn't sing jingle bells while handing her a Wi-Fi router. She said holiday protocol required at least one festive chorus before a package exchange. The driver stood there blinking, unsure if she was serious. She absolutely was. Her mom yelled from the living room that the router better come with caroling or she'd escalate. The driver finally hummed 2 shaky lines just to survive the moment. The teen still filed a complaint saying his pitch lacked holiday cheer. The support agent reportedly put her on mute to laugh before finishing the call. 4. An old man in Florida stormed out wearing reindeer pajamas because his delivery driver wore brown shoes instead of Santa-style black boots. He insisted that anyone delivering in December must visually match the North Pole dress code. The driver tried explaining that he wasn't on Santa's payroll, but the old man said December work automatically counted. His wife peeked from the doorway telling him to calm down, but he said standards matter. The neighbors watched as he demanded a refund for emotional disruption caused by improper footwear. The company later noted his complaint as dramatic but technically non-actionable. The driver simply added the house to his mental list of December hazards. 5. A woman in Seattle became furious when her box arrived completely intact. She claimed she couldn't trust a package unless it showed controlled damage because that proved humans touched it. With care. The driver tried to reassure her that unbroken boxes were a good thing, but she insisted perfection was suspicious. A neighbor leaned over the fence asking if she was joking, but she proudly declared she was absolutely serious. She even asked the driver to lightly dent one corner so she'd feel emotionally connected to the journey. He refused, took a photo for proof of delivery, and left quickly. She later sent customer service a poetic message about missing the soul of damaged packaging. 6. A man named Larry in Colorado scolded a delivery driver for not wearing a Santa hat. He claimed December automatically placed all drivers on the Christmas enforcement team. The driver said he already wore company-required gear, but Larry insisted festive compliance came first. His kids stood behind him embarrassed, begging him to stop. A neighbor filming the interaction whispered that this was peak holiday madness. Larry demanded a formal apology and asked if the driver could return tomorrow wearing proper headwear. The driver simply nodded to escape the moment. Later that day, customer service received a ticket titled Urgent Seasonal Uniform Violation, which became the office joke for the rest of the shift. 7. A teen girl in New Jersey called corporate after receiving her $5 gift card in a plain envelope. She said a festive unboxing experience was required even for small items. When the driver arrived, she questioned him like an investigator, asking why he didn't bring glitter, ribbons, or at least a dramatic reveal. He explained that envelopes exist for a reason, but she rolled her eyes and said he ruined her holiday content plans. Her brother laughed so hard he nearly fell down the stairs. She still filed a complaint demanding the company redesign its entire envelope policy to support holiday joy. The agent handling her call reportedly whispered "unbelievable" before typing a polite response. 8. A woman in Chicago opened her door and immediately lectured the driver for knocking instead of ringing the bell. She said doorbells were part of the Christmas soundtrack and knocking felt emotionally lazy. The driver apologized, but she continued describing how her home required musical entry during December. Her husband stood behind her, sipping cocoa, trying not to laugh. A neighbor walking his dog overheard and asked if she was serious. She said absolutely yes, because tradition must be honored. The driver promised to ring next time, even though he silently planned never to return. She later complained online that he delivered joy with rhythm failure. 9. An old woman in Arizona reported her delivery driver for smiling too little during the holidays. She said low cheer. Output violated seasonal service standards. The driver tried explaining he was on his 10th stop of the morning and still waking up, but she insisted Santa's helpers should beam non-stop. Her grandson whispered that maybe the driver was just tired, but she said fatigue was not an excuse in December. She even asked the driver to redo the smile so she could judge it properly. He forced an awkward grin, and she still rated it insufficient. Customer service flagged her complaint as spirit-level complaint intensity high and moved on. 10. A man named Todd in Pennsylvania demanded a redo because his package arrived before noon. He claimed Christmas magic only activates after 3 p.m., and early deliveries break the illusion. The driver tried explaining routes are based on efficiency, not holiday timing, but Todd said efficiency has nothing to do with enchantment. His neighbor mowing the lawn stopped to laugh when Todd insisted the driver return later and redeliver the same box. The driver refused, took a confirmation photo and walked away, while Todd shouted that he would escalate the matter. Customer service later described his complaint as chronologically unrealistic but entertaining. 11. A woman in Virginia opened her package and immediately complained that the box had no bow. She told the driver that bows were essential for feeling special during holiday deliveries. The driver explained that it was a standard shipment, not a gift wrapping service, but she claimed emotional disappointment. Her teenage son whispered that she could add her own bow, but she said it wasn't the same if joy wasn't pre-installed. The driver stood there silently as she tried to convince him to decorate the box on the spot. When he wouldn't, she walked inside dramatically, saying the season had lost its sparkle. Customer support later wrote her complaint under optional decorative dissatisfaction. 12. An old man in Minnesota demanded the delivery driver sign his receipt as Santa. The driver laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, but the old man remained completely serious. He held out a pen and pointed to the signature line like a stern teacher. The driver said he wasn't allowed to falsify names, which sent the old man into a speech about honoring tradition. A neighbor passing by said they could forge it for him if it helped, but he insisted only the official delivery elf could sign. After several minutes, the driver refused again and walked off. The customer later complained that authenticity was denied, and the season felt administratively incomplete. 13. A man in Georgia rated the driver 1 star because tracking showed out for delivery at 8 a.m. He said being out that early counted as pre-dawn betrayal. The driver tried explaining that morning departures were normal, but the man claimed Christmas magic wasn't supposed to start until later. His wife stood beside him trying not to laugh as he insisted the company respect sunrise expectations. He even demanded they change the tracking term to something less deceptive. The driver shrugged and headed back to his van while the man shouted that time integrity mattered. Customer service later labeled his complaint as chronologically emotional and moved it to the low priority pile. 14. A teen boy in Oregon complained that the driver didn't wait while he searched for the perfect scissors to open the box. He said delivery etiquette required patience because unboxing was an art. The driver explained he had 20 more stops, but the teen insisted proper presentation mattered more than schedules. His sister yelled from the couch asking why he couldn't use normal scissors, and he shouted back that holiday moments deserved precision. The driver eventually left mid-argument, leaving the teen on the porch dramatically holding the box. He later called support demanding compensation for lost cinematic potential. The agent muted the call to laugh before politely declining. 15. A woman in Kentucky opened her shipment and immediately complained that the invoice was printed on plain paper. She asked the driver why it didn't have holly borders or festive illustrations. The driver said invoices were functional documents, not greeting cards, but she refused to accept that. A neighbor watering plants overheard and joked she could draw holly herself, but she said authenticity requires corporate commitment. She even held the paper up to the light to check if maybe hidden decorations would appear. They did not. Customer service later received her complaint requesting seasonal stationery upgrades and quietly forwarded it to their internal humor channel. 16. A man in Nevada became furious when the driver parked 2 houses down from his curb. He said his street presence deserved priority joy during Christmas deliveries. The driver tried explaining there was a car blocking the closest spot, but the man insisted true dedication required creative maneuvering. His neighbor across the street shouted that he was being dramatic, but the man declared curb respect a holiday right. The driver snapped a delivery photo and left quickly. Minutes later, the man filed a complaint demanding a coupon for emotional inconvenience caused by distance logistics. The company marked the case as curb-centric dissatisfaction. 17. A woman in Maine shook her package and complained to the driver because it rattled. She said the sound caused her child to experience hope, followed by immediate disappointment. The driver explained some items naturally move inside boxes, but she accused him of destroying Christmas anticipation. Her child peeked from behind her, asking if the noise meant magic, and she lectured the driver for causing confusion. A neighbor walking by chuckled and said kids are resilient, but she insisted emotional turbulence lasts forever. She later demanded the package be reboxed in something that produced silent dignity. Customer service logged her complaint as auditory chaos disruption. 18. An old woman in Ohio complained because the driver said "Have a nice day" instead of "Merry Christmas." She called it emotional neutrality during a sacred month. The driver explained he greeted everyone politely, but she argued December required specific phrases. Her grandson whispered that maybe he didn't want to assume her holiday, but she said assumptions were festive tradition. She even asked the driver to redo the farewell correctly. He reluctantly said, "Merry Christmas," and she still said it lacked sincerity. Customer service received her complaint titled "Insufficient Seasonal Wording Intensity" and quietly moved it to the amusing folder. 19. A man named Robert in Utah reported his driver for wearing gloves. He said Santa's helpers should deliver packages with bare hands as a sign of commitment to the season. The driver tried explaining it was freezing outside, but Robert insisted warmth was irrelevant during December magic. His wife told him to stop bothering the poor man, but he continued lecturing about authenticity. The driver simply placed the box down and walked back to his truck, while Robert shouted about thematic responsibility. Later, support received a complaint describing glove usage as emotional distance between giver and receiver. The representative nearly choked trying not to laugh. 20. A woman in New York demanded her package be delivered again at night so her kids would believe Santa brought it. The driver explained he followed daylight routes, not mythical schedules, but she said authenticity mattered more than logistics. Her neighbor leaned over the balcony, reminding her that Santa doesn't deliver Amazon boxes, but she ignored him completely. She insisted the driver return after dark, sneak quietly, and place the package with proper magical energy. He refused and left quickly. She later filed a complaint accusing him of ruining childhood enchantment through daytime operations. Customer service flagged it as nocturnal fantasy conflict. 21. An old man in Idaho lifted his lightweight Christmas package and immediately complained that it felt too light. He told the driver that real holiday magic has weight because joy carries density. The driver explained the item inside was small, But the man insisted magic should be physically detectable. His neighbor laughed and said maybe the gift was happiness itself, which only made the old man angrier. He banged the box on his palm dramatically and said, "Emptiness equals missing enchantment." The driver shrugged and walked away while the man yelled that he was being ignored by corporate Christmas physics. Customer support later tagged the report under magical mass confusion. 22. A woman in California stood outside with her arms crossed complaining that the delivery van had no Christmas lights. She said drivers in December were part of the seasonal spectacle and should illuminate accordingly. The driver told her it was unsafe and against regulations, but she said regulations were anti-cheer propaganda. Her kids giggled behind her because she had once complained about lights being too bright on another house. A neighbor recording the scene whispered that this was peak December energy. She still filed a complaint demanding mandatory decorative lighting for all holiday deliveries. Support placed it in the unrealistic vehicle modification folder. 23. A man in Tennessee left a 1-star review because his label had no snowflake emoji. He claimed modern holiday communication required symbols, not plain text. The driver told him labels were printed automatically, but the man lectured about digital cheer standards. His partner rolled her eyes as he insisted the lack of emoji ruined the vibe of the entire shipment. A nearby teen overheard and asked if he was serious, which he proudly confirmed. Later, he called customer service demanding that holiday labels include emojis, glitter options, and maybe a small message from Santa. The agent typed politely while holding back laughter. 24. A woman in Colorado complained that the driver left too quickly. She said she needed at least 47 seconds to ask about his childhood trauma and how it affected his delivery speed. The driver stared at her in confusion before saying he had other stops. She insisted emotional check-ins were part of the Christmas spirit. Her husband pulled her inside saying the driver was not her winter therapist. A neighbor walking by smirked and whispered that she needed hobbies. She later sent customer service a detailed message accusing the driver of rushing personal connection time. Support categorized it as unsolicited psychological engagement. 25. A teen in Washington scolded the driver because the tape sealing the box was clear instead of red and green festive tape. He said it ruined the holiday aesthetic of his unboxing video. The driver apologized but explained he didn't choose the tape. The teen's sister recorded the whole meltdown, laughing as he argued that packaging should contribute to Christmas legacy. He demanded the driver rewrap the box with appropriate seasonal colors. The driver refused, placed the package down, and left quickly. The teen still filed a complaint requesting mandatory festive sealing for December shipments. Customer service logged it under aesthetic tape dissatisfaction. 26. A man in Arkansas demanded to speak to a supervisor because the driver didn't ask if he wanted to upgrade to Santa Express. The driver told him no such service existed, but the man claimed it absolutely should. His wife facepalmed and walked inside while he lectured about premium magical delivery tiers. A neighbor at the mailbox shook his head when he heard the man demand an optional sleigh-based upgrade. The driver simply took a photo and left before he got dragged into another fantasy argument. Support received the complaint and marked it as imaginary service request. 27. An old woman in Massachusetts reported the driver for declining the cookies she offered. She said refusing holiday sweets was a cultural violation. The driver explained he had allergies, but she said Christmas overrides allergies. Her grandson tried to explain that wasn't how allergies worked, but she snapped that tradition matters. The driver politely refused again and walked away. She later called customer service demanding mandatory cookie acceptance training for all seasonal drivers. Support added it to the forced culinary compliance section. 28. A man in Oklahoma complained that his receipt didn't say "from North Pole Distribution Center." He accused the company of false holiday advertising even though no such promise had been made. The driver tried explaining receipts simply show warehouse locations, but the man insisted festive branding was required in December. His neighbor suggested writing it in himself, but he said he needed official documentation. Later, he filed a complaint demanding the company acknowledge Santa's logistics partnership. Support flagged it as fictional origin dispute. 29. A woman in Texas actually called 911 because her package arrived on a Tuesday. She shouted that Santa doesn't work weekdays and demanded an officer correct the situation. The responding officer stared at her in disbelief before explaining emergency services didn't handle holiday scheduling complaints. The delivery driver, still nearby, apologized just to end the chaos. Her husband quietly closed the front door behind her, hoping no one else saw. She still lodged a formal complaint with the company, insisting they follow Santa's weekly off-day calendar. Support placed it into the misuse of emergency resources folder. 30. A man in New Hampshire complained the driver breathed heavily while carrying his package. He said audible effort ruined the illusion of Christmas magic because Santa operates silently. The driver explained he had climbed 3 flights of stairs, but the man insisted holiday physics eliminated fatigue. A woman walking her dog laughed and told him to chill before he gave himself a holiday meltdown. He ignored everyone and demanded the company retrain drivers in silent delivery. Support later tagged the case as respiratory disturbance complaint. 31. A woman in North Carolina opened her package, saw a tiny dent on one corner, and immediately declared that her gift now had low self-esteem. The driver explained the item inside was perfectly fine, but she clutched the box like it needed therapy. Her teenage daughter whispered that the dent was barely visible, yet the woman insisted the emotional damage was real. A neighbor passing by laughed and said the box looked healthier than most people. She demanded compensation for the gift's psychological trauma. The driver took a photo and left quickly. Customer service later labeled the case as sentimental packaging distress. 32. An old man in Wisconsin asked the driver to pose for a family photo as Santa's helper before accepting the package. The driver declined, saying he wasn't allowed to take posed photos on the job. The old man insisted it was part of holiday tradition and shouted for someone to grab the camera. His wife yelled from inside that no one needed another embarrassing picture for the fridge. The driver apologized and walked away, leaving the man dramatically clutching the package like he'd been betrayed by the North Pole itself. He later filed a complaint accusing the driver of ruining seasonal memories. Support flagged it as forced holiday portrait attempt. 33. A teen in Ohio left a 1-star review because the tracking map showed straight lines. He said Santa's route should be chaotic and joyful, not logical. The driver tried explaining GPS follows efficient paths, but the teen insisted magic had curves. His sister laughed, saying he couldn't even pass geometry, yet he was complaining about Christmas angles. The driver shrugged and delivered the box. Later, the teen called customer service demanding a more whimsical tracking animation for holiday shipments. The agent placed his complaint under unrealistic cartographic expectations. 34. A woman in Arizona demanded the driver take the box back because she only wanted the item inside, not the packaging. She called the cardboard emotional clutter. The driver explained he couldn't open or remove anything, but she insisted shipping should include optional packaging removal. Her neighbor shouted from across the yard asking why she couldn't throw it away herself. She replied that waste management wasn't part of her holiday spirit plan. The driver refused, placed the package down, and left as she lectured him about responsible joy handling. Customer support categorized the complaint as anti-cardboard activism. 35. A man in Montana complained the driver wore a watch, saying time is suspended on Christmas Eve, and watching it tick was a violation. The driver explained it was for tracking his route, but the man argued that magical schedules operate on vibes, not minutes. His friend standing nearby laughed and said the man barely shows up on time to anything, yet here he was talking about temporal purity. The driver delivered the package and escaped quickly. The man still filed a complaint demanding all holiday drivers remove watches to preserve mythological accuracy. Support tagged it as festive time distortion concern. 36. An old woman in Delaware reported the driver for delivering in the rain. She shouted that Santa controls weather, so drivers should too. The driver tried explaining he couldn't stop clouds from existing, but she told him to show more initiative. Her neighbor, holding an umbrella, asked if she expected the man to part the sky like a Christmas Moses. She ignored the comment and demanded compensation for moisture exposure. The driver simply placed the box down and walked away. Customer service filed it under unrealistic meteorological expectation. 37. A teen girl in Nevada complained that the driver didn't apologize for existing during the holidays. She said December required constant festive humility. The driver blinked, unsure how to even respond. Her brother poked his head out the door laughing, asking if she expected the man to bow too. She insisted courtesy standards rise during Christmas, and the driver had failed. The driver said sorry anyway just to survive and left quickly. She still wrote a complaint saying the apology lacked emotional sparkle. Support labeled it existential guilt request. 38. A man in Oregon complained that the barcode on his box scanned too fast. He said the beep was supposed to feel ceremonial, not rushed. The driver told him scanners work automatically, but he argued holiday beeps deserved more respect. A neighbor at the mailbox joked that maybe he wanted a choir behind the scan. The man said that would be ideal. After receiving the package, he called customer service demanding a slower, more meaningful scan next time. Support placed his complaint under ceremonial sound dissatisfaction. 39. A woman in Illinois demanded a refund because her box smelled like cardboard. She said holiday packages should smell like pine, cinnamon, or nostalgia. The driver explained cardboard smells like cardboard, but she refused to accept such scentless realism. Her husband told her she could light a candle, but she said artificial aromas were emotionally dishonest. She held the box up to her nose dramatically, claiming it lacked soul. Later, she filed a complaint insisting all December shipments include seasonal fragrance infusion. Support flagged it as unrealistic sensory expectation. 40. A man in Washington asked the driver to sign an NDA before handing over the package, claiming Santa's methods were proprietary. The driver refused, saying he couldn't sign legal documents while on duty. The man insisted secrecy was essential to preserve holiday logistics. A neighbor watering his lawn laughed when he heard the man threaten to sue for procedural exposure. The driver placed the box down and walked away before more nonsense happened. The man still filed a complaint stating operational confidentiality had been breached. Support labeled it unnecessary legal theatrics. 41. A woman in Michigan complained because her delivery confirmation email didn't include animated snow. She said holiday communication required digital cheer, not plain text. The driver told her he had nothing to do with emails, but she lectured him anyway about modern festive standards. Her boyfriend laughed and said she could download an app for snowfall effects, but she insisted corporate-produced snow was different. She even refreshed the email several times hoping magic would suddenly appear. It did not. Later, she called customer service requesting mandatory animation in all December notifications. The agent placed her complaint in the seasonal digital enhancement folder. 42. An old man in Kansas reported the driver for excessive nodding. He claimed the subtle head movement implied judgment of his porch decor. The driver was baffled and asked how nodding could be offensive. The old man said, "Christmas decorations require admiration, not silent acknowledgement." His neighbor shouted that the porch looked fine, but the man insisted the driver's nod carried negative emotional energy. The driver apologized just to end the conversation. The man still filed a complaint accusing him of underwhelming holiday enthusiasm. Customer support labeled it as interpretive nodding misunderstanding. 43. A man named Eric in Louisiana left a 1-star review because the driver knew his name. He said Santa's helpers shouldn't need ID because it breaks the spell. The driver explained he learned it from the label, but Eric insisted the magic of anonymity was essential. His wife laughed, reminding him he orders packages daily, so of course they know his name. He still scolded the driver for ruining Christmas mystique. Later, he contacted support demanding all drivers act like enchanted strangers. The agent placed the case under unrealistic magical protocol. 44. A woman in Rhode Island complained that her box wasn't warm. She claimed anything coming from the North Pole should contain residual magical heat. The driver said cold weather usually makes packages colder, but she rejected logic entirely. Her neighbor walking by asked how a box from the North Pole could be warm, and she argued that holiday warmth comes from spirit, not geography. She held the package dramatically like it had personally betrayed her. She later demanded a re-delivery with proper temperature authenticity. Customer support flagged her case as thermal enchantment expectation. 45. An old woman in Georgia insisted the driver park facing backward because Santa's sleigh always lands reversed. The driver explained parking rules didn't include holiday orientation, but she claimed tradition demanded accuracy. Her daughter begged her to stop embarrassing the family, but she lectured everyone on the importance of festive alignment. The driver placed the box gently on the porch, while she shouted instructions on how Santa would approve. He walked away shaking his head. Later, she filed a complaint demanding mandatory backward parking for December deliveries. Support labeled it directional sleigh mimicry. 46. A teen boy in Vermont demanded the driver personally gift wrap his item, saying it was step 3 of Festive fulfillment protocol. The driver told him no such protocol existed, but the boy insisted he'd seen it on a YouTube conspiracy video. His sister laughed so hard she dropped her phone. The boy handed the driver wrapping paper and scissors, but the driver refused and placed the package down. The teen complained loudly that proper holiday respect wasn't being shown. Later, he reported the incident, demanding employee retraining in decorative duties. Customer service categorized it as fictional protocol request. 47. A woman in New Mexico reported the driver for not singing while walking to the door. She said silence was anti-Christmas and that every delivery should include song. The driver explained he was focused on not slipping on her icy steps, but she insisted a simple carol would have improved the moment. Her husband told her she was expecting too much, but she covered his mouth and kept scolding the driver. He placed the box down and left quickly. She later filed a complaint recommending mandatory vocal training for holiday drivers. Support tagged the case as musical obligation demand. 48. A man in Illinois complained the label font was Arial. He said Christmas labels should use candy cane regular or something equally festive. The driver shrugged, explaining he didn't choose the font. The man lectured him on typographic spirit while his neighbors peeked through their blinds trying not to laugh. He even showed the driver a printout of fonts he preferred for holiday shipments. The driver apologized and left before the presentation got worse. Later, the man filed a complaint demanding December font upgrades across the company. Support put it under decorative typography disputes. 49. An old man in Maine asked the driver to climb onto his roof to test sleigh landing safety. The driver refused immediately, explaining he wasn't insured for rooftop activities. The old man argued that ensuring proper landing zones was part of Christmas preparation. His son yelled from inside that he needed to stop making deliveries into Santa rehearsals. The driver placed the package down and walked away before being asked for more nonsense. The man still filed a complaint, accusing the driver of ignoring vital seasonal responsibilities. Support flagged it as hazardous festive request. 50. A woman in New Jersey gave a 1-star review because her package arrived in one piece. She said some struggle was part of the holiday journey, and a perfect box lacked authenticity. The driver was stunned and asked if she preferred damage. She said a light crumple shows effort. Her neighbor nearly choked laughing when she explained her philosophy of meaningful imperfection. The driver refused to damage anything intentionally. She still filed a complaint demanding boxes arrive with tasteful hardship during December. Support filed it under desired damage dissatisfaction. 51. A teen girl in Virginia scolded the driver because he blinked. She said Santa's helpers maintain constant eye contact to show commitment to the season. The driver froze, unsure whether blinking was now considered disrespect. Her brother laughed so hard he nearly dropped his soda, telling her she was inventing rules at this point. She insisted Christmas cheer requires unwavering ocular dedication. The driver blinked again by accident, and she gasped like he'd betrayed the North Pole. He placed the package down and escaped to his van. She still filed a complaint accusing him of holiday disengagement. Support marked it as unrealistic visual endurance request. 52. A man in Colorado complained that his box had no glitter residue. He said packages handled by elves always carry magical sparkle. The driver explained that glitter rarely survives shipping, but the man argued true enchantment is permanent. His neighbor peered over the fence amused as the man shook the box hoping glitter would fall out like confetti. Nothing happened. He declared the shipment spiritually empty and demanded a redelivery with proper elf verification. The driver shook his head and walked away. Customer service logged the complaint under missing mythical trace evidence. 53. An old woman in Wyoming demanded a redo because the driver smiled with teeth. She said Santa's helpers use closed-mouth joy only because wide smiles feel suspicious. The driver apologized, though he wasn't sure what facial rules applied to December. Her friend visiting whispered that this was the strangest critique she'd ever heard. The woman insisted that teeth display disrupts holiday innocence. The driver delivered the package and left quickly before another facial regulation appeared. She still filed a complaint requesting seasonal smile guidelines. Support flagged it as inappropriate holiday dental expectations. 54. A man in Indiana asked the driver to leave his package inside the chimney because porch drop-offs lacked authenticity. The driver explained he couldn't climb into people's chimneys, but the man insisted Santa manages it effortlessly. His wife yelled from the living room asking why he wanted soot on the gift. He said soot was part of the charm. The driver refused and walked back to his truck while the man called him a joyless non-believer. Later, he filed a complaint demanding chimney-based delivery training. Customer support labeled it dangerous entry method request. 55. A woman in Maryland complained that her tracking update said delivered instead of magically materialized. She said wording matters because December requires wonder. The driver tried to explain that tracking uses basic terms, but she insisted the phrasing stripped away holiday mystery. Her neighbor joked that she should install her own magical notification system, but she said official enchantment must come from the company. She even opened and closed the tracking page repeatedly, hoping it would update with sparkles. It did not. Support logged her case under unrealistic linguistic enchantment demands. 56. A man in California went viral in his neighborhood after complaining that his drone delivery hovered for 37 seconds. He claimed the drone spied on his dog's treat stash and violated Christmas privacy. The driver who monitored the drone feed said it was stabilizing in windy weather, but the man insisted it was gathering intel for Santa's naughty list algorithm. His dog barked once, which he interpreted as a formal protest. He later filed a complaint demanding aerial behavior guidelines for holiday deliveries. Support categorized it as unauthorized canine surveillance concern. And that's just the beginning because Christmas delivery season hasn't even hit full chaos mode yet. If people are already complaining about blinking drivers, non-magical cardboard scents, and drones spying on dogs, imagine what's coming next week. The holidays don't create madness. They simply unwrap the madness that was already there. Smash the like button if these made you laugh. Subscribe for more insane complaint stories. Comment below which complaint shocked you the most. And have you ever experienced a ridiculous holiday delivery moment?